back to the Eyes Talk series. I'm Mike and I run the Spraydays YouTube channel. Today, we've got a very, very special guest, a graffiti artist who's been painting in and around London since 1988. He's had a huge impact on the scene and I've never heard a bad word spoke about him. I'm a huge fan of this dude and I feel very lucky that we get a chance to chat. So let's get straight into this with Tizer. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. Nice.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to get you on. It's been a long time in the making. I mean, you're one of my favorite graffiti artists, and I'm really excited to talk to you about some old stories and everything. So could you take us back to the start and tell us sort of your first contact with graffiti, where it caught your attention?
My cousin was a punk. Well, two of my cousins were punks, but in 1982, my parents divorced and my mother brought me and my brother over from America. My father was American, my mother was British.
Yeah.
So we moved in with my aunt and uncle in Sydenham, and we lived with her and her husband, and then their three kids. And my eldest cousin's like 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes lesser, but my youngest cousin was a punk, and so was my middle cousin. And he was into The Clash, and Futura rapped on the Clash album. So he took me and my brother to West London from far South London on public transport to go and see the Futura piece.
Oh, wow.
At the time, we didn't really know what it was, but we knew that it was important because we travelled all the way across London to have a look at a wall, basically. So from that moment, I mean, my cousin was doing kind of punk graffiti, so we saw him doing like tags and stuff like that, but more in kind of simplistic, like punk style. But we kind of realized that it was important and started looking at it from that point onwards. So from a very early age, South London was really known for kind of bus bombing and kind of, because we didn't have many tube lines, so that ventured into South. So it was mostly kind of train lines and buses. So
yeah. And did you see anything in America before getting to London? Or was London your first sort of contact there?
I mean, I moved to England when I was 7 years old, and my brother was 9. So, I mean, I'd been to England when I was 3 for a Christmas gathering of my mother's British family, but I didn't really know England before I came here.
Definitely. And what was it that brought you over? I know you said you moved over here, but what was the reason for moving?
My father was a violent alcoholic cokehead, so by this point my parents' relationship had broken down. My father was super aggressive and violent, and then my aunt was told by my grandmother to go to America and see what was going on, and she kind of saw that our situation was pretty bleak, so she told us to move, to divorce, sell all of our shit, and then come to England, live with her until she could get enough money to get her own flat.
Right.
By borrowing money off of the rest of the family and stuff like that.
Right. And was art sort of an escape for you from an early age for sort of?
Well, yeah, my father was an illustrator. I mean, he wasn't by the time we left, but he was an illustrator in his younger life.
Right.
And we would see him draw once in a while. So being children of the 70s, you were into kind of comics and stuff like that. So we always drew, from me and my brother, from very early age. So we were trying to copy kind of comic books, and then also like Crimean, who's a South London graffiti writer. He did most of the artwork for the Orc's Nest, which was like a model figurine kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah. Like
but
Warhammer
yeah, I
or
mean,
something.
we were always just drawing and looking at kind of illustration and stuff like that, and trying to figure out how to draw characters
Yeah,
as kids, you know. But
definitely.
yeah, I mean, with graffiti, we really kind of, when we saw pieces and stuff like that, and also London had a lot of illegal public murals which were political throughout the whole of London. So
Right.
we
I
kind
was
of
going to ask what the scene was in London back then. I mean, you referenced the punks and stuff. There was obviously a few different cultures, subcultures going on in the graffiti.
yeah, for sure, for
Was it
sure.
all,
You
was
know,
it
like
all apparent in that sense? Was it sort of showing you that the punks are in this sector, the hip hop crowd are over here? Was it sort of segregated in a sense?
well, I mean, London was really racist when we moved here. So, because we had American accents, we couldn't really speak on the bus because people would punch us up, or old men would slap you and call
Really?
you a septic tank. You know
Jesus.
what I mean? So, and also my cousins were punks, so kind of Nazi skinheads would fuck with us constantly, you know, especially if they heard our voices, but then seeing us with our cousins because they were punks and obviously not racist. There was kind of, it was just dangerous being a kid in London, you know, especially before any kind of cameras and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not into cameras at all, but you know, it's kind of slowed down some of the kind of street robbery and stuff like that.
It offers a sense of security almost for the public, I guess, even though they're up in your business totally 100% all the time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Mm.
mean, I'm not saying that I like cameras at all. They're weird, but you know, like, I mean, it was just, I don't know. London was a very different place back then. Do you know what I mean? It was, you could tell what type of music somebody was into just by what they wore. You
Yeah.
know, you could tell if somebody was like a suede head scar boy to, I don't know, like a, there was everybody, there was so many different subcultures like psychobilly and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, um, different factions of kind of music forms, you know what I mean? So psychobilly was kind of rockabilly mixed with punk. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be like Big Quiffs but dressed as a punk. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, you
Just
know,
totally
like
stuff.
um so like when we were kids we just listened. I mean, my mother was and father were super political, so, and at the time we thought everybody thought there was going to be nuclear dawn at any point. So people were terrified that they were going to get incinerated at any second, you know. So that was always a constant thing in the back of your mind that we were going to go to war and
Right.
all die, you know.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I mean, but you can see kind of similarities with mass panic with any of these kind of, you know, I'm 45 years old now, so you know, I've been through all of them. I've been through nuclear dawn,
Showing
AIDS,
your age.
Zamos, heroin. Uh, eggs were going to kill me.
Oh,
Then
man.
it was, you know what I mean? So you get numb to the amount of threats to your life.
You just enjoy
Yeah,
yourself now.
yeah. But you know, like, yeah. So basically, my cousin, my youngest cousin, was really into comics. So he really kind of taught us about collecting comics and looking after your comics and things like that. So we were real kind of comic nerds for ages. And when I was a kid, I was really, well, I was an angry kid. You know what I
Right.
mean? So also I didn't fit in. Um, I was dyslexic. I didn't know that, but also I was like kind of deemed a problem child, you know. So a lot of the time my teachers would stop teaching me, and then so I would just sit and draw.
Yeah.
So just because I could escape from where I was when I was drawing.
Yeah, totally.
So, you know, like me looking at public murals, like say Nuclear Dawn in Brixton, which is still there. Um, uh, when I first saw that mural, um, it really spoke to me because it was about nuclear dawn, but then also um, to see a painting of that scale and size, I was like, oh, I want to do that when I'm older. And
Captured.
that was when I was, yeah, when I was like 7, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So um, then when graffiti hit, we started seeing pieces and being, obviously we were like amazed by the colors, and then but then also from tagging when we would get on the bus, because South London had a really kind of wild style, tag style. It was really difficult to read. And then once we kind of deciphered it and were able to read tags, we were like fully hooked, because we've then realized that certain kids from South London had tags in Central London or in West London. You know what I mean? So
Like becoming a map, you started working things
yeah,
out.
yeah. You start.
It's almost a language of its own. And once you
Yeah,
start,
yeah, for sure. Well, I said to Traffic the other day, I was like, I find it really strange that people can't read graffiti. You know, it's even really simplistic letters. And he said, well, can you read Russian? And I was like, no. And he went, well, it's a different language. You know
totally.
what I mean? It's
You have to study it. You have to stand there for a few minutes and take your time to actually
figure it
work
out.
out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like a puzzle. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But then that goes down to kind of, there's certain things that people don't really realize about graffiti, that there's a lot more to it than they think there is. So, I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, and they hadn't really ever thought about it before, that, you know, graffiti started, well, New York and Philadelphia style graffiti started in the late 60s to early 70s. You know what I mean? It was that period.
Yeah.
So most of the kids that were doing it, their fathers or their older brothers were coming back from Vietnam. So all of the terminology is from war terminology. So your tag is your name tag. You're in a crew. You're going on a mission. To do a burner is like burning villages. Do you know
Totally.
what I mean?
When you say it like
It's
that,
all it's
totally
all
adds
war
up.
related.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so when it comes down to lettering, your letters should kind of be like a castle with protection. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So with your
I like
arrows or
it.
your arrows or your protection, and also your letters should be in a fighting stance.
Yeah.
Do
You've
you know
got
what I
your
mean?
force
So
field.
the whole kind of idea of lots of kids were watching kung fu films in the 70s and then watching superhero, reading comics. You know what I mean? So it's like a superhero name, and it's also you're protecting your letters with kung fu styles. Do you know what I mean? So
Totally, man.
you know,
That's
you all your arrows mean different things. Do you know what I mean? They could be spears, bombs, knives. Do you know
different
what I mean?
weapons.
So like it's protecting your castle. Do you know what I mean?
Is that how
So
you always
so
thought you're structuring your pieces when you're going about a piece?
well, no, I don't really think about it much anymore. I just kind of,
Just paint.
yeah, I mean, I normally set my colors out in color order, and then I just kind of figure out what would work, and then I just kind of try to make up what I feel on that day. You know?
Yeah. And did you always paint like that, or did you start? Did you sketch to practice before you even went to a wall, or how did?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for years, like when I first started doing, I mean, me and my brother started in kind of like '88, so we were doing like, that's when we first started doing tags on the street and in buses and stuff like that, you know. But we were just, for many years we were kind of paper pushers, you know what I mean? We were drawing, but for probably the first 9 years of me doing graffiti, I was just a bomber. I was
Right.
just into doing tags. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Making my own markers, making my own ink, and then just trying to get up. You know what I mean? And the way that I wanted to do it was to learn how to do good tags, then be good at throw ups, then dubs, and then pieces. And
Did that come from anywhere, or was that just how you felt, or was that from looking at that
that's how I felt. I didn't want to be instantly whack. You know what I mean? I wanted to have a kind of foundation behind me before I was gonna try and do stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You wanted to sort of
With,
hone your skills before making a statement.
you know, in '91, my brother moved to New York to go to college. So he was in like '91, '92. He went to college in New York. So he met writers out there and was painting and doing stuff out there. And then over here, I was kind of pissed off that he'd gone. But I also knew that I had to kind of keep up the family name, so I went mental for a few years, just bombing. Do you know what I mean? Just doing insides and stations and buses.
So you're getting constant updates, like this is what's happening in New York. This is what I'm doing. You know.
Yeah. I mean, well, he would send me over photographs and then like boxes of Phillies blunts, and because they were cheap over there and they were really expensive here, and you know what I mean, just like mixtapes, and then kind of tapes of the Jerky Boys and stuff like that, like stuff that you couldn't get in England at that time, you know.
Yeah, so you were already looking into that culture, and it was already engulfed you.
Well, I mean, the thing for me was that by 1984, sorry, I'm going backwards in time now, but in 1984, when we stopped kind of living at my aunt and uncle's and stuff like that, and we were kind of figuring out ourselves, punk music, well, British punk music was dying, and American kind of skate rock, skate punk, and American punk was starting to really kind of come into, well, West Coast kind of punk music was really coming into fruition. And at the time, British punk musicians were making rap records. So Captain Sensible from The Damned made a song called What, which was WOT, and it was like a British disco punk rap tune. Do you know what I mean? And then the Clash made like Radio Clash, which had like a hip hop beat to it, and it had breakdancing. Malcolm McLaren did Buffalo Gals, and that was the first time England ever had b-boying and graffiti on British television.
Right.
So, you know, that inspired a whole generation of kids as well. But you know what I mean? There was the thing about England and New York was the whole kind of Jamaican and punk element. Do you know what I mean? So kids from Jamaica's families would move to New York and London, and people would send mixtapes to each other because Jamaicans always want to listen to the brand new type of music that's out. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's where kind of sound clash has really originated, of having the newest shit. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Which is obviously where hip hop got its kind of thing from as well. So, you know, my eldest cousin was listening to electro and doing body popping and stuff like that. I mean, only kind of piss take body popping, but still you could see that it was an influence
at the time. You know?
And kids at my primary school were bringing in lino and a boombox, and they would b-boy. And at the time I was into punk, so we were taking the piss, but we were amazed by it. You know what I mean? And I was trying to learn how to do the caterpillar, but I sucked at b-boying. So, you know, it was just kid shit. But, you know, it was an exciting time because me and my brother both realized that hip hop was the new punk, and it was political. It was teaching me things that I didn't know, that I wasn't being taught in school, and it was about being proud of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so at the time, me and my brother. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, you could hear a lot of, I mean, where we grew up in Brixton, you know, kind of Herne Brixton neighborhoods, it was a lot of reggae music that we were hearing at the time, but then also a lot of hip hop. So, because it was the young, new music for people of different backgrounds, I guess, you know.
Definitely, definitely. And whereabouts in London was this? Where were you painting at the time? Was there spots? I guess at the time there wasn't legal spots or anything. It was.
Well, you could still get arrested at legal places in London up till the kind of late 90s, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like you could wherever you painted, it was still illegal. Do you know what I mean? And normally, at the time I wasn't allowed to paint in halls of fame because I wasn't good enough. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like, yeah, but you wouldn't.
Levels to it.
You had to burn the person that you were painting over. You couldn't
100%.
paint over somebody who was better than you. Do you know what I mean? Unless you were going fully in, but you still had to do a better thing than that person that you're going over.
Totally. And who were some of them names at the Hall of Fames at that time when you were in London?
Oh, man, there's fucking loads of people.
Your favorites, man, your favorites.
Well, I mean, me growing up, I mean, there was a guy called Pest who was incredible at tags. You know what I mean? He kind of, I guess he went all city, but he was from like my neighborhood. You know what I mean? And he'd always have the back window of every bus, which was like the prime spot, you know. That really kind of, he first was like the guy who really kind of thought, me and my brother were like, man, that guy's fucking everywhere, you know. And then, but you know, there's so many, because when I was younger, because we skateboarded as well, we were going to different neighborhoods to try and find new spots or go to different places to skate.
Yeah.
So we saw a lot of people from east and west and north as well as south, you know what I mean? So we were quite lucky in that fact, you know what I mean? There's a lot of, you know, at the time Covent Garden was still happening in the 80s, do you know what I mean? And we would look at the graffiti and watch some of the b-boying, but we weren't part of that at all. We were way too young, do you know what I mean? We were little kids, you know what I mean? And most of those guys were like late teens, you know what I mean?
It wasn't you were getting involved with at that time.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you know, like the first time in '92, I was put in a West London crew called SHK, which was by the kind of time it was slowing down, there was about 160 people in that crew.
Wow.
So it was an important crew, but you know, a lot of the other crews that hold history of London graffiti would never mention other crews that they didn't think were important, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But everybody did their thing, you know.
Totally. And crews are always a big thing in graffiti. I mean, you're a member of a few crews.
Loads.
I was going to.
There's only one other person that I know who's in as many crews as I am.
Do you think that's really important for like younger writers, get themselves in a few crews and like start meeting a few more people?
Yeah, I mean, as I've gotten older, I've normally told younger people to maybe not necessarily be part of crews, because when you're young, other people in that crew might cause problems with other people, and then you're brought into some bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, crews should be kind of, I don't know, people you respect and that are really your friends, you know? So each crew that I'm in, I'm friends with a big section of the people that are in them, you know, which is great. And then, you know, I've only ever said no to 2 crews, and the people were really upset. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be in their crew. It was just that I'm in so many that I struggle to
getting out of control.
Yeah, I mean, I could, you know, like I'm in so many crews that it would fill up the whole fucking wall. So I have to kind of, every time I paint, I normally put up 3, and I always put up the crew me and my brother started, which was ID.
Yes,
So
yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. Is that I was going to ask how it formed. I take that was something you and your brother came up with.
yeah. So when in like 1996, because we were part of like other crews, and I don't know, we just kind of felt that we wanted to do a crew for ourselves, but it was only supposed to be a 2-man crew.
Right.
And then after about a year, my brother put his girlfriend's brother in it. He was a graffiti writer too.
Keeping it
Well, it
young,
is. And then I got pissed off and put one of my friends in, and then we've now got 13 people in the crew.
It became
But you know, I mean, it was supposed to be a 2-man crew originally. So that crew's more of a family to us. It's more kind of people who there's a lot of people in my crew who used to do a lot of graffiti and have kind of slowed down now, but they're still our family and friends, you know. But it's more of a family crew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you still meet up? Do you get together every now and then for big paints?
Yeah.
Jams.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in contact with everybody in that. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, we're talking about London a lot. What are some of the spots like up back time and now? Like, how's it changed? Where's the graffiti moved from, and where is it now? Would you say in London?
Well, it's kind of funny because I've kind of looked at London as I've got older and seen how it's changed. You know, if in the 70s, Victoria and Pimlico was really run down and bombed out, and it was a really poor neighborhood in the 60s and 50s, you know. And the King's Road was where Vivian Westwood opened up the sex shop. So obviously there was lots of punk graffiti down that road, and it was probably a cheap neighborhood for them to be able to open up there.
Right.
So then that got gentrified. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like if you look at kind of Notting Hill, it used to have a lot of graffiti there, and then it was cheap to live there, and now it's super expensive.
Lost you there a second. You're ringing.
Sorry, yeah, sorry about that.
I've got you. Don't worry, mate.
But you know, like, so I guess over the kind of, well, we started hanging out in the early 90s in kind of around Old Street and Hoxton Square, because there was 2 clubs there, and it was just like a ghost town at the weekends. Do you know what I mean? It was at night time, nobody really lived there, so it was all kind of factories and kind of, there wasn't anybody on the streets. There weren't, I mean, besides dangerous people, but but you know what I mean? But there wasn't any police in that neighborhood just because nobody was walking around. So you could do lots of graffiti in East London because nobody was there. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, it started becoming a place for artists to be able to get warehouse spaces or better sized flats than they could do anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? And then with cool people comes sorry, I just got a text message. You know, that's how areas get gentrified. Do you know what I mean? But you know,
people want to be around that sort of area. They want to see the graffiti and sort of be around.
Yeah, but there's an energy behind it. Do you know what I mean? With any type of graffiti, you know, it stems from rebellion. You know what I mean? It's guerrilla tactics. It's bombing the system. Do you know what I mean? It's you're upset with the situation that we're put in. You know what I mean? So it's an attack on the system. So, you know, graffiti comes from a rebellious thing. You know what I mean? And it's supposed to be. You know, it's artwork by the people for the people.
Yeah, I think it's misunderstood there. Like we said before about like the public sometimes can't read it or anything. I mean, writers spend all their time getting up and getting their name out there, but then they almost don't want people to understand it. They only want the graffiti culture to understand it, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, but it's not for them, it's for us.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And obviously it is for them as well. If you're doing colorful pieces, it brightens up neighborhoods, you know. And England's pretty much a brown and gray, the
drab
cities
place.
are brown and gray, you know what I mean? So humans like to see color. And, you know, that's why I guess graffiti and street art has become what it is because it's a natural progression, you know. England's had American style graffiti from, well, from the mid 70s. There was few bits of people like from that were doing American style graffiti, and then in the 1980, because of the connection between New York and London, people were getting sent stuff, you know, and or people had family and stayed there and did graffiti. Like I don't know, like Coma went to New York in the early 80s and then started painting trains in this city, you know.
Right. So it's
So
bringing that flavor back. It's going there, getting it,
yeah, I
absorbing it,
mean,
bringing it back.
we were just really lucky being the age that we were, that we saw the kind of second excitement for skateboarding, and then also graffiti and hip hop. Do you know what I mean? I was there, and it was lucky that we were there to see it. You know what I mean?
Did you skate yourself? Did you grow up
Yeah,
skating?
yeah. I skateboarded for like 25 years.
Oh wow, man! Wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. I mean, I always try and bring up the relations between graffiti and skateboarding. How we spoke before about like searching for skate spots, searching for
yeah,
graffiti
yeah.
spots
Mm.
against the law. People sort
Well,
of
they're very similar.
use
They're
that.
very similar. You know, they're both of them kind of are freedom. Same with like BMXing. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're actually doing that thing, you're not thinking about your worldly problems or about that thing. You know, you're in that zone of painting or doing or skating. You know what I mean? You have to
And there's adrenaline and fear
concentrate on that.
involved, so you develop bonds through that with other people, I guess. And
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Also, you have your own little crews that you hop fences. You're trying to find spots to skate or paint. You know what I mean? They're both very similar pastimes. I mean, graffiti's got more of a kind of moody attitude, but I guess skateboarding does as well. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's
yeah, it has its
any subculture run by men is normally quite shirty.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Do you know what I mean? So
Clicky, bit clicky and everything.
yeah, yeah, but you know what I mean. That's cool.
And
You
is
know
there
what
a
I mean?
big crossover in London with like the graffiti and the skateboard scene? Is it sort of when there's jams, is the painting going on? And
Well, I mean, a lot of um, graffiti writers were once skaters. I mean, if you look at a lot of the skateboard graphics as well, and then most of the kind of Dogtown stuff when they used to do kind of cholo riding. You know
yeah,
what I mean? There's a on the West Coast. There's a huge kind of Mexican, well, like South American influence on kind of from gang style fonts. You know,
yeah,
um, that was what was really interesting for us, was that every city, and like when I was a kid, you could tell what side of the city somebody was from by their tag. You know what I
right.
mean? It was
Had a style.
even in London, you know. So British throw ups didn't look like American throw ups or Swedish throw ups or San Francisco.
And could
Do
you
you know
see
what I mean? Like,
coming through London? Like, could you see that? Like people
yeah,
checking it
yeah,
out?
yeah. You know, like if you look at like early British graffiti, was the main people that came over from America were Futura, Brim from Tats Crew, and then T Kid. And if you look at a lot of early British graffiti, I mean, there's obvious people like Scheme and stuff like that that really inspired a lot of British writers. But, you know, also in England, we had 2000 AD, the comic book, which was futuristic. So a lot of young kids from the UK were doing futuristic graffiti because we all thought we would be in flying cars by the year 2000.
Yeah.
You know, either it'd be nuclear dawn or it was flying cars. We had either option.
Staying ahead of times. Yeah.
So if you look at a lot of British graffiti from that time, it has influences from really Brim and Futura,
Yeah.
with the kind of spritzer stuff, you know, the kind of hippie film, kind of mixing colors together. But that's also from just having what they've stolen. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And having a limited library is to sort of
Yeah.
learn from, I guess. I mean, I was going to ask about that. And like, do you think that's an advantage almost because you almost had to carve your own style to be individual? Whereas now you've got so much choice on the internet. It's so prevalent.
Yeah. Yeah, but when I was younger, you weren't allowed to copy people.
No.
You know what I mean? You get punched up for that, or called out. You know what I mean? Like, so. Also, England was different from America. America, older guys would teach younger dudes how to write their names or fix up their style and teach them how to do it. You know, England was really kind of selfish and was like, no, that's my shit. You know what I mean? Like, so the rave era really killed British graffiti because all the writers went off and got high and quit, and then it was all the kind of crazy kids that were left. You know?
Yeah.
You know. Also, a lot of people kind of fell out of love with hip hop.
Right.
You know, so they all kind of turned to.
Became a bit mainstream at that time, I guess, because once all the media and everything jumps on it, the people that started, I guess, start to move away from it. Then it pushes them away almost.
Yeah, for sure. But also, it was a different time. Do you know what I mean? I mean, a lot of my friends were into raving, but because I was listening to kind of conscious hip hop, I wasn't really taking as many drugs as they were. So,
sort of a voice of conscience on your shoulder or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, but also, sorry, I just got a phone call again. What was I saying?
I've lost you again, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Don't worry.
Oh yeah. So a lot of my friends were going to raves and getting mash up constantly, you know, and you know, sometimes I was too, but not as much as everybody else. You know, I was more into skating and doing tags. I mean,
we were talking about the hip hop. It was hip hop. We were talking about the hip hop and how it sort of kept you away from the drugs and everything.
Sorry, British hip hop at that time was still conscious, like really conscious, up to like kind of up to kind of 93, you know, where America kind of went full gangster hip hop, which is fine. I like gangster hip hop, but at the time, I'd kind of grown up around gangsters and I'd seen a lot of crazy shit, you know what I mean? So I didn't necessarily want to be like that. I was supposed to be a violent person, so I decided I didn't want to be that thing, you know?
Yeah. And did you understand they were glorifying that from an early point? Like,
no, I mean, which is fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, people were talking about stuff that they saw as well, but at the time I didn't necessarily want to, I wanted to kind of educate myself, you know, on kind of different histories. You know, I read a lot of Black and Native American history because I thought it was important, because where I'm from in the States, there was a lot of Native Americans, and then also in moving to Brixton, I thought it was important that I learned about African history, you know, just because I should. Well, it's human history, so people should be taught that stuff too, you know.
Yeah, totally. And as hip hop always had a huge influence. I mean, we see the wicked characters and the b-boy characters next to your pieces.
Yeah.
It's been always
yeah. I mean, but that was as a kid, because I was really into characters. sorry, lost me again.
All right.
Yeah, so uh, I was really into, like, first off, b-boy characters really caught my eye, you know, because they didn't look like other kind of illustration characters, you know,
Yeah.
especially like English people like Crimean. He was really doing kind of futuristic dudes with lasers. You know what I mean? It was you know, it was just so when I first started using color, I was like, right, I'll do characters because I didn't have to use as much paint, and also I wanted to get good at characters. And
Yeah.
then at one point I was like, I don't want to be good at characters and suck at letters. So I really tried to learn how to do lettering, you know. So I'm not saying that I mean, you never learn it properly. I mean, you try.
Yeah. You feel
But
like
it's
you're always
ongoing,
learning.
you know what I mean? It's never ending. No matter what stage you get, you're never stoked on what you do because you always you can always do better. Do you know what I
You're
mean?
always looking at your pieces thinking, oh, I should have done this different, or I could have
Yeah,
used a different color here.
yeah. Or you just despise the whole thing. You're just like, oh my god, why did I do that? But you know, it doesn't matter because graffiti's throwaway. You
And
know
do
what
you
I mean?
always leave them
It's
to lie, or has there ever been a piece you've been that embarrassed that you've been back to buff it yourself or something?
uh, no, I've only ever done one. I've only ever done throw ups over one piece, and that was with Punk and um, fuck, who else was there that day? It was just embarrassing. I was just like, oh god, I'm gonna go home now. Yeah, I destroyed my own shit. Um, but you know, you can't win them all.
Oh man, oh man.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, but you know, the thing with graffiti is it's never going to be there forever.
No,
So you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're not pleased with it. You know what I mean? Maybe in 5 years' time, when you look at it again, you might see something that you didn't see before,
yeah,
and then use that little section of a part of it and base the whole thing off of it. You know?
yeah, totally. And is there any of your old pieces like that you're really astonished by how old they are? Like, do you ever see anything that's super old and you're like, whoa?
Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's in London. It's quite difficult. You know what I mean? It's your stuff really doesn't last. I mean, in other countries, because of they still have a respect thing there, so people don't go over each other. You know,
Yeah,
so in certain countries, I've got pieces that are like 11 years old and stuff like that, and
that's cool.
which is really cool.
Yeah,
It's
man.
really weird to see because they're all like fucking faded, and
Yeah.
you know, it's cool.
Taking the beating of time. And with
Yeah.
that traveling thing, did you? I mean, it's. I see pictures of you from old pieces all around the world in different countries. Did you ever think that graffiti would take you around the world and enable you to travel?
No, I mean, when I first started it, I was surprised it took me outside my own neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, but you know, by doing it, you want to get up in different places. So it made me want to travel to different cities and areas in the UK. Do you know what I mean? It's, you know, for me, my brother, we always kind of looked at graffiti as the same as skateboarding, where when we met riders, we were like, "Oh, you're into the same shit as me." You know what I mean? And that doesn't always work because people can be stinky. But you know,
Yeah,
we've always tried to be cool to other riders.
yeah,
Um, you know, just because we always thought it was an amazing thing, and that we always wanted to. When we still like when I paint with other people, I'm always try to give people ideas or kind of tell if somebody's not great. I'll teach them. I'll say, "Oh, you need to fix that part of your letter, or thicken up your 3D or your outline."
yeah. Help
You know
them.
what I mean? Just giving hinters, because if people learn stuff that me and my brother taught ourselves, um, like it can only make it better,
Yeah,
graffiti better. Do you know what I mean? Like it's important that
Pass
I know
on skills.
people moan about the internet and how graffiti's changed, or they try to say that, oh, I don't like street art or whatever, and which is fine. You know what I mean? It's, you don't have to like everything,
No,
but
it's
you
not
know,
for everyone. It's not for everyone.
yeah. But it's great that if you look at, like, England's had graffiti for a long time. Do you know what I mean? And um, it's the last 20 years where people have got older and they've seen graffiti for so long that it's not shocking to people anymore. Do you
Becoming
know what
more
I mean?
and
It's
more
not.
acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't phased by it. So I say to people in, like, Eastern Europe, when I go there, they're like, oh, it's different in your country. And I'm like, yeah, but we're 10 years, 15 years your senior, you know what I mean? So,
Give it
and
some
it's
time.
only now
Do
that
the same.
people are starting to realize that it's important,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And is there any cities that stand out to you? I mean, you've travelled to quite a lot of places. Is there anywhere that stands out to you? You really enjoyed to travel there and paint?
Absolutely everywhere, man.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a hard
do you know
one.
what I mean? Just being somewhere new is always exciting, you know?
Yeah,
You always you always make friends in other places. Yeah, I've been to places where people have told me that they're dangerous, and you know, I mean, maybe I've been lucky, but you know, I spend a lot of time on the streets. Do you know what I mean? So I can spot stuff before it happens. You know what I mean? I know when somebody's trying to scheme on me to rob me, or I'm
you're well
looking at
aware.
who, when I go into bars and stuff. I look around the bar and I'm like, right, those dudes are dangerous.
Yeah,
They're not dangerous. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's a
I
smoking
mean,
weed thing too, man.
anybody,
You do a military
any human can
investment.
be dangerous.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? No, but you know, like, I don't know. I even if I can't speak the same language, I know how to make somebody smile,
100%.
or you know what I mean. And you can have a wonderful time in places where, you know, people have said to me in the past, they're like, "Oh, you grew up in Brixton, wasn't it dangerous?" And I was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Yeah, but you know, beautiful things happen in bad places too. You know what I mean? There's
100%.
strong senses of community, and people look out for each other.
Yeah,
You know,
diamonds in the rough.
yeah, but you know what I mean? It's yeah, anywhere can be dangerous. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You can be humans are dangerous.
Safety's boring also. So like a lot of people are coming from these other neighborhoods to these areas because there's actually a sense of risk or whatever, even if it is slight, it just gives you a bit of excitement through the day. And that's what I guess people are after. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. It's yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I was going to go political then, but you know, there's like I'm from two of the most hated countries in the world. Do you know what I mean? There's certain countries I've gone to, people are like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, um, "England or America? Which one
take
do
your
you think?
pick.
Which
Yeah.
one do you hate more?" Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that my family were ever like that.
Has it ever
Do you
been
know
a
what I mean?
problem? Has it ever restricted you from doing anything, being where you're from?
Yeah, but that's I mean, but but that's happens anywhere where you're not from.
Yeah.
There, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I go to the States now, they think I'm English, and English people can hear that my English accent's not correct. Do you know what I mean? So I get racist abuse in America now, and then racist abuse here. Do you know what I mean? So I don't I like swimming around in the ocean somewhere, but you know,
Yeah. Lost in
I'm
the
lost at sea.
yeah, totally, mate. Totally.
We
Did you
all
visit?
we all are.
Do you visit America much? Are you back in America much?
Uh, Well, I used to go back in the '80s a lot, to see family, and um, my mum had a boyfriend from New York in the '80s and '90s, so we used to go to Brooklyn a bit when we were younger.
Yeah.
But I stopped going to America from '92 up till 2003.
Oh wow.
So I mean, not because I didn't like America. It was just I wanted to visit other places. You know,
Yeah.
it
Another
was,
thing
I
that's
always thought it was quite important to try and travel.
100.
And you know, there's, I mean, I've been really lucky for the fact that I've been invited to places to paint, you know, or to do jobs in different countries. But even still, you know, a lot of, I was explaining to somebody the other day, they were moaning about me going away so much. And I was like, yeah, but I don't do cocaine.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? And I was like, well, for 2 tickets, you could buy a ticket to Spain for 2 weeks
Hey,
and go and paint somewhere else.
20,
And
40 quid a flight, you're off.
no, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
no, I
you
think
could,
totally the same.
do you know what I mean? You can be in different places. You don't, it's possible for you to travel even if you don't have money. You know, I don't earn much money, but I'm happy, you know?
No, and it's totally
Yeah.
right. I mean, you can travel so easy now. Amsterdam, Paris, Berlin, anything's accessible in an hour or two with 30, 40
Yeah,
quid.
but
Most people
if
would
you're
spend
in a,
on a night out.
you know, if you're in a subculture like BMXing, skating, or graffiti, or any of the elements of hip hop, you know, you can go to any country in the world, and normally within 24 hours to 48 hours, I'm in a hip hop night in a different country. Do you know what I mean? Or there will be a graffiti store or a skateboard shop. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, there'll be people who you can relate to instantly from your subcultures, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that that would work out with punks, or do you know what I mean? Any kind of subculture.
Anything you've
I'm
got a
sure that
common
would.
interest in, and it's great. I mean, I've used it with traveling. It's just amazing just to go to a city and somebody shows you the local spots, and it's a shortcut basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I go to places, I'm not a tourist. I'm instantly a local, because I'm hanging out with the local dudes painting in their local spots, and then my girlfriend's hanging out with their girlfriends.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, they can do that touristy shit or go shopping or whatever girls want to do.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
You can go
and
and
then
paint.
yeah, yeah. But then you can meet up, and then they'll take you to the dope places to eat.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? They're cheaper,
yeah.
and you can go to the cool clubs or bars. Do you know what I mean? Because
100.
they know where you are. You're not searching for it. You're
Yeah,
just taken straight there.
yeah. And
It's
when
cool shit.
people are coming to London, do you feel it's right to pay that back and sort of show them around and give them
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, for a long time, I had me and me and my brother we were kind of the go-to people for international dudes that wanted to paint. So for a long time, I'd have people come stay at my house and sleep on the couch, and then we'd just go paint. You know, same as like skating.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You know, you'd be like, oh, one of your friends would be like, oh, this is a friend of mine. He's coming to your city. Will you look out for him? And then they call you up, and you're like, stay at my house. Do you know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? That's
yeah,
just how it is.
100%. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then it makes it cheaper when you travel, because
yeah,
you end up staying at their house. Do
yeah.
you know what I mean? And then like their grandmother's making you pasta, or do you know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah, it
you
can go
can
like that
build
totally.
strong friendships with people, you know. The exciting thing for me is, me and my brother as kids were, with skateboarding and graffiti, it didn't matter what you looked like or what background you were from. So
About what you can
like,
do.
some of my friends had Bugs Bunny money, to friends of mine were homeless, you know what I mean? But it didn't matter. It was about skateboarding. You know what I mean? It didn't matter if you were Muslim or uh, Christian or Jewish or whatever. You know what I
Became
mean? It was,
into it. Yeah,
and same with graffiti as well. You know what I mean? The thing that pisses me off now is, like with the London Mural Festival, there was loads of people writing in saying, "Oh, there weren't enough Black or Asian or women portrayed," in which is fine. I get that, but that has nothing to do with our subculture. You're bringing that bullshit into our subculture. Before, it had nothing to do. It's about you doing that thing. Do
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Now that
So
on
it
that.
didn't. When I met writers, when you meet writers, you don't know what they fucking look like.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So you shouldn't be choosing somebody because, like the girls
You
that
should.
I know who do graffiti, they're good at graffiti.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not,
Don't,
nobody
oh,
looks at
she's
them
good at
differently
girl.
because they're a girl. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like Mad C or Rosie One paint better than, or Mickey paint better than most guys. So what the fuck? Like, shut up.
It
You know
doesn't.
what I mean? It's like,
You can't have a selection box and go, because then you're almost you're doing it what you complaining about almost.
yeah. But I mean, but that was our freedom. Do you know what I mean? It was us when we were kids. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what you fucking look like.
No.
I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm ugly or if I'm fat or whatever. It's about me doing a fucking bit of graffiti. Do you know what I mean? Like, shut the fuck up.
Okay.
But but that's. I mean, I get it, and but it was never about that when I was younger. That's why me and my brother felt that we could be part of graffiti, because it was part of hip hop culture, and it didn't matter that we were white, and
No.
it didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter that we were
I mean,
originally American. It was about us just doing graffiti.
that sort of situation usually develops like the best character as well. You sort of get people with these great personalities from these scenes, and I think that's why, because they sort of feel a bit more free when they're around their friends. There's no sort of stereotypes or anything blocking them out.
Yeah. Well, you can, that's why, like, I've always, I mean, because I'm so dyslexic, I don't read street signs. So I look at graffiti, and I remember graffiti that was on certain street corners. Do you know what I mean? That were gone 25 years ago, but I remember there was a tag on that corner. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how I've always navigated my way around cities, is looking at strange buildings or graffiti. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how I get around foreign cities. I'm like, at nighttime, I'm like, oh, I saw that throw up down there. We need to go that way.
Yeah, nice.
That for me, it was, it's just a way of navigating around where I live.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we're talking about other cities and traveling there. I mean, I wanted to speak to you about a specific story that I'd read something on your Instagram about in India when you were painting and you got attacked by a cow.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, we went to this this city where Octopussy was filmed.
Right.
So there's like a temple, like a castle in the middle of this big riverway, and down the road from there, there's it's kind of like Venice, I guess. I've never been to Venice, but you know what I mean. It has lots of riverways going through this city, and there was like some crap graffiti on this wall, so we just took out this massive wall on the riverbank, and so little kids were coming and talking to us, and there was a woman washing her clothes and stuff like that, and this massive bull just started walking down towards me, and I was like, guys, there's a massive bull here. And then I was just kind of like smiling at it, and it just stopped, and then went to charge me, and then tried to hit me into the wall with its massive horns, and I like sucked my gut in, jumped out the way, and then it tried to hit me the other way with its other horn, and I jumped out over the water onto some steps. And like almost ate shit. And like I turned around, and it just charged Aeon and Ebot and these kids, and they were like running for their lives, getting chased by this bull. And these Canadian girls that we'd met on the train, they were drinking coffee across the river and saw the whole thing, and unfortunately didn't get it on film.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have totally crushed me, though. It tried to ram me against the wall.
Have you had any other sort of near-death experience, or is that one to stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I've almost been hit by trains. I've fallen on the electric rail.
Really?
Luckily didn't get electrocuted because there wasn't any trains in the near vicinity. But You know, yeah, I've fallen off shit, and you know, yeah, I've been in dangerous places at the wrong time,
Yeah.
but always got out. You know,
Still here, still living.
yeah, yeah.
And did you ever get
You
in
know,
any trouble? I mean, obviously there was a lot of illegal activity going on back then. I mean, were people getting?
yeah. I mean, I was quite lucky. I mean, I only really got arrested properly 4 times,
Right.
and I just always kind of talk shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'd already dealt with the police from an early age from skateboarding, and them punching us up as kids or strangling us, or you know, I mean, the police have always really heavy-handed with young people.
Super.
I think it's to scare them when they're older. You
Yeah.
know what I mean, or
It's still some
keep
fear.
them in line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was they were really aggressive, especially in South London. You know, well, actually throughout the whole of London, they'd always like want to punch you up. So you know, you kind of learn from an early age how to speak to police without them punching you up. It's the same, but it's the same with graffiti and skateboarding. You know what I mean? Like you're on the street, so you deal with street people all the time. So you really learn how to talk to people so they don't punch you up. You know?
Yeah.
You learn the fucking Jedi Knight shit and zap them. You know.
Has London changed a lot since then? I mean, obviously, it's not. I mean, the coppers aren't the best, but they're not doing that sort of thing anymore. Is it still going on?
Yeah, they are. I mean, but I mean, I'm older now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not. You know, London. Every city's dangerous, and every city's dangerous for young people. But I'm older than most police officers now. Do you know what I mean?
So you get
I'm also older than most of the stick-up kids. You know,
you get
not interested in me.
now.
I'm not wearing the right shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm the same age as their parents or their asshole teacher. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm supposed to be uncool.
Oh, mate. But and with London, what do you think the future of London graffiti is? I mean, we're seeing these mural festivals. We're seeing it becoming more and more acceptable. Do you think there's going to be big sort of future Hall of Fames, or do you think they're going to try and sort of push it away to the outer neighborhoods now?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, there isn't any graffiti in King's Road anymore. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, but you know, there'll always be graffiti, I think.
Yeah, I do mean more in the terms that the regeneration now are sort of using graffiti as a platform almost.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, like, yeah, you could say that. You know, but then you know, like you can put it in a different light as well. If you look at kind of sign writing or like people doing public art or painting, you know what I mean? That most graffiti writers paint on large scale. You know what I mean? So they've already figured out they were doing mathematical equations from being as children trying to size up their lettering. You know what I mean? There's so you know, people being able to you learn life skills through graffiti. Do you know what I mean? Even from survival to being able to make money from what you're good at. You know what I mean? It's people should be earning. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know, it was really sad to me when not being able to see, you know, like on the sides of old buildings when you'd see all of the kind of old
gold
30s advertising and stuff. You know what I mean? To me, that shit's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, and having kind of people who of that skill set to be able to do proper typography on at large scale. You know, I think hopefully a lot more people will be able to survive from art. You know what I mean? or art being taken seriously in this country. You know what I mean? Like, music's always been cool. Like, if you tell people you're an artist, then people think you're an asshole. I mean, but you know, like, the only people who are really allowed to be artists in this country are from the elite. You know?
There's a lot of pretentiousness attached to that, and sort of elitism attached to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you know, you have to pander for, you know, sorry, Dade.
You're all right.
You know, a writer friend of mine, Ebot, said to me recently, he was like, "Oh, graffiti's the only real art form," and I was like, "Well, why do you say that?" And he was like, "Well, if you look at any other type of art, people go to university to learn how to sell their art, and they normally make art just to sell it." He was like, "There's very few artists that feel they need to do that art all the time." You know what I mean? And normally money stops them unless they're from a rich background, you know?
100%.
And he said that graffiti writers feel they need to go out and create.
Yeah.
And that they have to, you know, but...
it's more of an urge than a demand thing.
Yeah. But then, you know, when you kind of listen to kind of Ram LZ and stuff like that, and you kind of start learning more about kind of different aspects of art, even typography. Like, I remember hearing that there's a invisible square. I don't know, it's called the magical square or something like that. In Rome, they made up a square that every font will fit into. So if you make up a typographical font, it will fit, that one letter will fit in that square. And that's all made up of sacred geometry.
Right.
So at the beginning of old Bibles, you'd have an illuminated letter, say like a C with flowers around it. But that's all done mathematically within sacred geometry.
Yeah.
So that
it's supposed to attach
Ram Z was saying,
right?
You what?
It attaches like an energy or something, right? The sacred geometry.
Yeah, but so young people are doing mathematical equations and science without actually knowing that they're doing illuminated lettering. You know what I mean? So he was saying that it's a higher art form than people realize. That you're making illuminated lettering basically.
Subliminally happening.
Well, a lot of people feel that it's a kind of religious calling. Do you know what I mean? That they have to do it, and it makes them feel relaxed after they do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting concept. I don't know if you need to believe it, but
you
know, it's an interesting kind of concept. You know.
Yeah. No.
You know, I mean, I've always felt that there's a lot more to it than
just
you know.
Yeah. No.
You know, like, it's the same as like when musicians go into that trance or DJs go into that blank stare. You literally do the same thing when you're painting, but you're concentrating on getting lines to line, points to points, or do you know what I mean?
You're zoning out. You're just hyper focused almost.
Yeah, but it's a freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not part of this galaxy at that moment. You're creating something.
You're doing your own thing. And do you think that's what keeps you painting graffiti? That feeling of just like emptiness, not emptiness, but clearness.
Well, escapism. Yeah. But you know, it's I feel, you know, it's different from most men in this country. When they meet up with friends, they go to the pub, do coke, drink beers, and then that's it. Maybe eat kebab on the way home. I mean, with graffiti, you can get as fucked up as you want, but you get, you know what I mean? But at least the next day you've got something to show for it. You know what I mean? Like, man, I feel terrible, but I did this.
Yeah. It's an achievement.
Winning.
And do you think you're always going to paint? Is that something you never plan on stopping? Do you think there'll be an age restriction for you, or sort of some time to retire and clock out?
Well, I should probably start doing yoga. Or maybe get a little table so I can like rest shit. No, but if you look at a lot of the New York and Philly dudes, they're still fucking smashing it.
Going strong.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm sure I'll slow down at some point. You know. Well,
Can't see it
maybe
yet.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I kind of thought, I'll try to get as many pieces done before I can't do it anymore.
Do you have any sort of idea how many pieces you've painted over time? Or does that just get lost completely?
I have no idea, dude.
Yeah.
Literally have no idea. I wouldn't, yeah, I don't know. I mean, over the last 8 years, I was painting a lot before then, and but like, yeah, over the last 8 years, I had problems in my life, and I just thought I'll just go and paint instead of thinking about my shitty life.
Yeah.
And then like for the first year of that 8 years, I took like 4 days off, and that was like Christmas, my brother's birthday, and then I think 2 times when I was hungover. I mean, there was times where I was throwing up at the wall and being really slow and moody. But yeah, I mean, like, and then the year after that, I think I had like a week off where one day I just laid at home. Do you know what I mean? Like, there'll be a few days where like, I'll just fucking sit in my pants and do shit all for like 2 days, and then I'll
chilling.
Yeah, but
And every time I've come to London, I mean, I see a lot of Tizer pieces around. How does it make you feel? I mean, sort of walking around town, seeing your own pieces. Is it cool or?
I hate my pieces.
I know you say that, but
I mean, there's some things that I'm proud of. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
when I've done kind of painted in schools. Do you know what I mean? Like, changed areas. You know what I mean? Like, there were certain times where I was asked by councils to paint known dangerous spots, and when you put paint and color there, it changes the whole feeling of that place, and you can calm places down with color and also with beautiful things.
Yeah, you're
I mean, you can
have an effect on
the
that.
amazing thing about graffiti is being able to make something ugly look beautiful,
100%.
And I'm pretty conscious about where I paint. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a kid's playground, I wouldn't paint like sexual things, or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or if you go to different countries or places, you can find out the colors of that neighborhood, and you can make stuff that's beautiful for the local people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it does say your name in massive letters, but you can do stuff that's still
the
with characters.
Pick up on those things. The people that you want to know are going to pick up on those colors and stuff.
Yeah, but when you put characters in your graffiti, it changes it. It makes it have a story. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can. The general public can't read graffiti, so they're like, "Oh, I like the colors, but I don't know what it fucking says."
Yeah.
So to them, that makes them feel like they're ostracized from it.
And do you feel that? Do you feel like the people connect more maybe with the pieces where you've painted a character than if it's just letters?
Depends on the person, but mostly, yeah. You know what I mean? Because people can instantly relate to something with eyes and a mouth, even if it's a ketchup bottle with some eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the best thing about being able to do characters. You can literally, I mean, I did a toilet man once. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you can use anything.
You know what I mean? Like, you can pretty much draw anything and stick eyes and a mouth on it, and it's a character. Do you know what I mean?
What are some of the other favourite characters you've drawn then, other than Toilet Man?
Well, a few of my friends didn't like this piece, but I thought it was hilariously funny. I was trying to draw, Orko from He-Man.
Yeah, right.
The wizard from He-Man, the little floaty wizard guy.
Yeah.
I was trying to make him doing electricity out of his hands, like shocking my piece.
Right.
So I painted that because I thought, oh, nobody paints Orko anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was such an 80s character that you had a few people in different countries paint Orko like once. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, nobody paints Orko. I'm going to bring Orko back. And so I tried to do that. And I stood back and it just looked like he was flinging spunk on my piece. And I was like, oh no, it looks like he's giving me fucking Spidey. This is spiking me up.
Oh, mate.
And I was like, oh, I've got an idea, like that. And then I changed it to Jizz Hands, part 1. And I put She-Ra down at the bottom corner with loads of spunk on her face. And then my friend timed me to see how fast I could paint Castle Grayskull. And we were in crying hysterics whilst painting that. I mean, it was a bit offensive, but it was pretty funny.
Had to be done.
She-Ra had spunk going out her nose.
Oh man!
But yeah, terrible.
Piece.
But there's certain things that like me and my brother, when we used to paint together, we would sit there and we'd get, because we were doing painting and decorating at the time and stuff like that, so we always had emulsion, and we'd normally have a different color, and then we'd get all of our paint out in color order, and then we'd look at it, and then we would shout terrible ideas for walls to do. And like the worst ideas for a concept wall ever. Do you know what I mean? And when both of us were in hysterics, we were like, right, we're painting that. And then we'd come up with our wall. Do you know what I mean?
Great way to come up with concepts.
But so we would always do stupid comedy walls. Like, not because we didn't take graffiti seriously. It was just, at the time, most London writers were doing like really aggressive graffiti. Do you know what I mean? And for me, graffiti's always been fun. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I just run around cities being a prick. Do you know what I mean? Like, like,
it's nothing to be cool about. Yeah.
It wasn't to be cool or be tough. It was just because we were pricks, like one of one of the names for ID was Idiots Crew, because when we formed that crew, we were in our early to mid 20s. Do you know what I mean? And you're supposed to give up graffiti when you're 16. So it's idiotic that we were still painting graffiti in our 20s. Do you know what I mean? And we were taking the piss out of ourselves because we were like, well, I don't know why we're doing it either.
Humor going with it. Totally, man.
But it's supposed to be fun. Yeah. And when it's not fun for me anymore, I'll quit.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think more that way now. I mean, from what I've seen, people are so nice and inviting and everything. I don't really feel.
Yeah, but we're not teenagers anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
the hierarchy doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, there's always a hierarchy in graffiti, and there should be. But it should be other people telling you that you're important, not you telling other people you're important. Do you know what I mean?
Good point.
It's the same as like, you should be asked into a crew. You shouldn't ask somebody to be in their crew. Do you know what I mean? I've always thought that was quite odd that you would ask.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like an honor to be asked. You've got to wait and sort of.
Yeah. You have to prove yourself to be accepted into something.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, Would you have any advice for sort of younger writers? I know I asked you before, but is there anything that you sort of think about, like if you were starting to write now, where you something that you could offer to the younger guys, like how to act or just to be like
Yeah,
taking?
man. Like if you, I mean, there's loads of things that you can do. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to spend a lot of money to do graffiti. Do you know what I mean? That's the reason why we did it as kids. You know, you can make markers yourself. Do you know what I mean? You can learn how to mix shoe dyes to make ink. You know what I mean?
Find
You
old,
know,
mix it up.
you can also use roller paint to fill big areas and then use a can to outline it. Do you know what I mean? Or, you know, what I would say to a lot of young people is to draw a lot if you can. You know what I mean? Like, it's always possible to learn a lot of things by drawing. You know, you can, if you, once you've done an outline, you can hold it in the mirror and look at it in reverse.
Right,
So
right.
then you can see where it's weighted properly or it's kind of, it's not holding the
Find the
weight.
yeah, yeah.
You know, the reasons why there was so much structure to letter forms in the 80s was because it's important to have your letters have movement and flow, you know, it unless it's a stagnant looking thing.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, having, it takes years to learn how to do things, but you know, my friend Immersed said to me when I first started trying to paint stuff, he was like, stop trying to do good shit. He was like, learn how to do block letters. So do big square block letters, make them the same size, give them the same amount of space, and then learn how to do a drop shadow, then learn how to do 3D and perspective. And then you can learn how to crack your letters. Then you can tilt them and make them tick-tock. You know what I
Definitely.
mean? So
It all
they
becomes
go like that.
accessible to you now because you've learned from the bottom. You know every part of it rather than
Yeah,
jumping in,
yeah. So
trying to do it
then,
straight away.
and then phase two, who passed away a year ago today, God rest his soul. He made up soft style that people call bubble style.
Yeah.
So once you learn how to do straight letters, then learn how to do bubble style lettering. You know what I mean? Like, so you learn how to do curves, and then you can start to then make your bars, make stuff out of bars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you can start to learn how to kind of move them or
Jazz it
make them
up.
flow. You know, with if you learn how to do 2D letters, then that's a different way of painting characters. And if you learn how to do characters as well, you can learn how to do shading and kind of things like that. And then you can bring that into your lettering as well. So then it becomes a 3D image even. And then you can, I guess, do 3D graffiti.
So it's best to, you
But
always say, to try and do letters and characters because it can
yeah.
benefit, both can benefit each other.
Yeah. Well, I said to somebody the other day that, you know, it's harder to do simple letters and make them look good than it is to do loads of color with stuff because people get tricked by the color. Do you know what I mean?
Heck,
But if you know how to read letters, you can see if it sucks or not. You know
totally.
what I mean? Like, it's the same as if you do dark fill with a light outline is harder than doing it the other way around because you're instantly looking at the outline of those letters. So you can really tell if it sucks or not.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And in about 2010, um, I just did yeah, I mean, I kind of sucked at doing dark fills, so I spent 6 months just doing dark fills until I felt I was good enough.
Oh,
Do you
sick.
know what I mean? Like, whatever you suck at,
Like
work
it.
really hard at that thing you
Yeah,
suck
yeah.
at.
Don't shy away from something that you're maybe bad at. Maybe jump right into that and get at it.
Yeah.
Awesome,
But
mate.
you know what I mean? Graffiti's supposed to be hard.
Yeah, yeah. If
You know
it
what
is,
I mean? It's nothing good is easy. Do you know
no,
what I mean? It's
totally agree.
there's very few people who are instantly good at, say, art or skateboarding
It's a time
or
thing.
any type of thing.
Yeah.
But most of those people, because it's easy for them, they don't bother.
No.
Because people go, oh yeah, you're great at that, and they're like, yeah, and then they get lazy.
Contemplate.
And then the people who suck surpass them because they've been working harder.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally agree. I think if you've got a passion and a drive and a work ethic, I think you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah, well, if you can imagine something, then you'll be able to draw that. I mean, it might take you years to be able to do that, but if you can imagine something, then it's possible for you to recreate that through any type of thing, you know.
Yeah, I
So
think once you realize
possibilities
a
are
lot.
endless.
Yeah, yeah. Once
You
you
know,
realize,
like when I first started doing graffiti, I couldn't do graffiti. You know
no,
what I mean? It wasn't like I knew what I was doing. I was
yeah,
just like, I mean, I sucked for years, but to some people, I still suck. Do you know what I mean? But that's fine. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. This is my journey through my thing. Do you know what I mean? And graffiti can be whatever you want it to be in your life. You know, you can be uh, just a train painter. Do you know what I mean? Or you can be just do tags for your whole life.
whatever calls
That
out.
makes you happy, then do that thing. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Totally.
You
No,
know, it's
I think that's all.
you realize that you don't need to. You stop trying to impress people after a while.
Yeah.
Once you get older, because you don't care.
No, you realize it's about you and you, the people that are close around you and your family and stuff like that. And your day's not really going to change much due to what somebody thinks, I guess.
Yeah. No, for sure. I don't know. You can be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't ever listen to anybody saying that you shouldn't be what you want to be. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck do they know?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I had terrible teaching when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? And I was obviously a problem child, which I should have been acknowledged for that. Do you know? I mean, like looked out for. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of the time, as a younger person, I always felt let down by older people or teachers telling me that I was never going to be shit or I was going to be in prison by the time I was 17.
Instead of getting behind you and motivating you and finding a way
Yeah,
to
yeah,
change that.
but they completely misread me as a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, like if I listened to them, I would have been a stick-up kid or I would have been a gangster. Do you know what I mean?
Where you are now, for sure.
No, but it was easy for me to be that thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I was already getting scouted by local gangsters. You know, gangsters always feed off the young. You know what I mean? They search out kids from single parent families because they know that you're not making the same kind of money.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, hey, yeah, take this thing there, and I'll give you some money. Do you know what I mean? It makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
easy to go down the wrong path.
Oh well, when I was a kid, if you looked in my neighborhood, the dudes that were top ranking had the best cars, they had the best chains, they had the best clothes. It didn't matter if they were ugly, they had the prettiest girls from our neighborhood, you know what I mean? It's like, so I can see why young people want to emulate that because they want to have shit. You know, if you come from something where you don't have shit, you want to have stuff, you know? And you want to look cool and you want to have pretty girlfriends and stuff, you know what I mean? It's that makes complete sense, you know. And if you're told by shit teachers or you don't fit into the system, that you're an outcast, you know what I mean? So, but the thing was with me is doing graffiti, I knew that it was easy for me to sell drugs, and I knew that if I really wanted to be good at graffiti as a kid, you know what I mean? And I knew that if I sold drugs, and I got arrested, then yeah, but it makes you look like a double asshole. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Then they can give you longer sentences because you're a threat to society. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
criminal. Yeah.
so, you know, I was, by the time I was 16, I didn't want to fucking fight anymore. I didn't want to be a stereotype from, you know, I didn't want to be a stereotype,
Yeah.
you know.
Sure.
I was from a bad neighborhood. Do you know what I mean? Me and my brother, when we were younger, we couldn't pretend we were tough. All the kids in our neighborhood were tough. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
you get punched. We were getting punched up anyway, but me trying to pretend I was fucking some bad man brought bad men closer to me, and I didn't want to have that shit, you know.
yeah.
And as young people in a city, especially during the rave era, you know what I mean, people made a lot of money out of young people. You know what I mean? So you were always surrounded by gangster dudes. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
and
Even when I was growing up, it was the hard and tough guys that we respected as such, you know, that everyone sort of looked up to. Whereas I hope now that's
yeah, for sure.
a bit.
But I mean, you know, I didn't necessarily look up to those types of people. I looked up to professional skateboarders and my graffiti heroes. And like, sometimes you meet graffiti heroes of yours and they're not forthcoming and they're not that cool to you. So, which is always, well, it's a shame, but you know, and when you get older, you're like, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know
really
who likes
no
me.
skin off my nose.
No, but you know what I mean? Of course you want to get respect from your peers. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's but you know, it doesn't matter if they don't. Do you know what I mean? This is your graffiti journey. Do you know what I mean? It's not theirs.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't matter what people think of what you do. Just be, I think for young people, it's I don't know, ask questions and don't worry about if somebody buoys you off or not. Do you know what I mean? Because somebody out there will listen to you and answer you correctly. Do you know what I mean? Like, not everybody's a dickhead.
100%.
And do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes, yeah, as a kid, I was always taught to be silent when you're hanging around with OGs. You know what I mean? Because there's no point in me talking when I can learn stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's better to be quiet at times because you can learn a lot of shit.
You have to sit and take it in, and you have to gauge which stuff you actually need to pay attention to, and which stuff people are just telling you for no reason.
Yeah.
Totally, man. Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you for that. I mean, I won't keep you around for much longer. I was just looking at the clock then, and we've been on for a good bit. So, I mean, it's been awesome having you on, mate. I mean, I really can't thank you enough. I'm sure everyone loved hearing a bit about you and everything. Is there any projects that people should be looking out for? Anything coming up, or any shows or jams or anything?
I don't know. Me and this one are planning on going on a trip around Europe next summer. If we can get that together, that'd be really cool.
Awesome.
I don't know. I had quite a lot of plans for this year, but it all fucked up. But you know, like, you never know.
Corona landed.
Humans are resilient. We'll be all right in the end. You know.
Yeah. We're just biding our time. It just feels like a hibernation. Like we're just waiting around for something to happen, but I don't know what.
Yeah. Well, hopefully only good things.
Yeah.
You know, people keep talking about doom and gloom, but I believe in the youth. And I think that the youth are a lot more political and right on than I was at my young age. You know what I mean? Like, they know a lot more about politics and their human rights, and you know,
which is awesome.
No, I think it's time for humans to change and start being kinder to each other. You know, it's you know, you can kind of really see how people, you can really tell by graffiti and on how the general public are feeling. Do you know what I mean? So if graffiti goes super aggressive and violent, then you know that most of the other people in society are feeling quite aggressive and violent. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
you know. But there's been a lot of people really scared for almost a year now.
It's worrying times, very worrying.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that got sick and passed away,
Yeah.
which is really sad.
Yeah. Sick, so lost their jobs, and I mean the economy's
Yeah,
crumbling.
man.
There's a lot of shit going on for people.
But yeah, this is the kind of time for humans to then look out for each other more.
100%.
Once I don't know, if pubs get too expensive, you'll get more house parties, and I love house parties.
Only gets better.
Not house music, but parties in houses.
I did think that when I saw it, when you started seeing all these parties and gatherings in parks and stuff, and when I'm traveling around Europe, you see it all the time. But here, you just thought, it's a bit of a freshness. Everybody's outside, everybody's enjoying their company, some nature. It was a bit of a breath of fresh air.
When the first kind of lockdown stopped, I started doing this fucking weird shit where I was just walking up to random motherfuckers and waving at them like, "Hi," like that. And they were like looking at me like, "What the fuck are you waving at?" I'd be like, I'd just look at them and be like, "Well, you haven't talked to anyone else either. Like, why are you being all stush?" And they were like, "Oh, right, yeah, cool." I'm like, "Glad to see you alive."
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, I just thought, it was a time, a lot of people have been locked up in their house and they haven't talked to anybody. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a girlfriend, and for like 4.5 months, I didn't shake somebody's hand or hug somebody. Even my like close family, I didn't hug anybody.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? There's people out there that don't have human contact with other humans. Do you know what I mean? It's, that's where a lot of mental health comes from. You know what I mean? Is, people have hard lives. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that just because you have a hard life doesn't mean that you can't make it better for yourself.
Totally.
You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah, you just have to make the best.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the thing is, if I can do it, then fucking anybody can do it. You know what I mean? No, but it's true. Do you know what I mean? I was supposed to be a failure. Do you know what I mean? And
I know what you're saying.
but all the teachers that told me I was a piece of shit, they haven't traveled as much as me, and they don't know how to talk to people from different parts of society. You know what I mean? Like, I've talked, places I've painted, I've had to hang out with junkies, and do you know what I mean? Or like pimps or hustlers, or do you know what I mean? Or posh people. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's there, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't talk to other humans.
Oh no, they'll go by totally just to work, to back with their headphones on, get on the motorway, and then go.
So, yeah, I mean, I have been to dangerous places, but to me, they've been great because I know how to talk to humans. Because I've learned how to not get punched in the mouth. Do you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes you have to fight. You know what I mean? But I'd rather try not to. I fought a lot when I was a kid, and I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? It never made me feel better. I always felt stupid because somebody else made me upset.
Yeah,
100%. You know what I mean? Or then me hurting somebody. Do you know what I mean?
You don't feel,
and then you feel guilty about, no matter how much you wanted to punch that person up. Yeah. If you hurt somebody or make somebody scared of you, then it normally doesn't make you feel that great about yourself. You know what I mean? Unless maybe for the first 20 minutes of, yeah, I'm an ape. But then soon after that, it creeps back on you, man.
Yeah, your conscience kicks in, and I think that's all it is. You just got to sort of be morally right and just, like you say, make people's days better.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's 2020. We should be, I don't know. There's a lot of kind of last century shit going on. Do you know what I mean? You're like, really?
Crazy
You're
shit.
racist? I'm like, really?
How aren't you stoned
That's so
every day
last
or something,
century.
you know?
You
Fuck
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's quite strange to me. I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad that I don't. Do you know what I mean? I just find it really strange that people still have fucked up ideas on sexuality
Feel stony.
or do you know what I mean? It's like, it's fucking 2020, man. There's been eons of humans in this world, you know what I mean? And we're all originally from Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like humans are migrating animals.
When you
know what I
realize
mean?
how insignificant as well. Well, not how insignificant, but there's so many moving parts to the world. And like, you just have to realize that you don't matter that much sometimes and just sort of get on with it.
Well, my friend's dad said to me once, he said, if you ever feel that your life's coming to too much for you, he said, walk outside and stare at the sky. And he went, it doesn't matter if there's clouds there or whatever. He went, just stare at the sky. You take as long as you need, but then you suddenly realize that everything is everything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You realize that, you know, no matter how, or a junkie saying to me once, saying, no matter how bad it gets, it could always be worse. Do you know what I mean? It's, you know, everybody goes through the same amount of pain and anguish in their life or fear. And, you know, if you try, no matter how hard that thing is to look at, if you try to battle that in a positive way, then you can beat your demons, you know?
Yeah. You need to use
and
it.
then you can become a better person.
Yeah, it makes you stronger. The more sort of feats you overcome, the more equipped you are to deal with life as such.
Yeah, but you know, like everything's a learning curve. Even, you know, like times in my life where maybe I lost a job or I broke up with somebody that I loved or whatever. At the time it's traumatic. But then when a few years later on down the line, you look back at it and you're like, oh, I actually learned a lot of stuff from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like every 6 months you get kicked in the nuts from some terrible thing. The older you get, you're like, oh no, that's terrible. How am I going to deal with that one? And then, you know, you just try to fucking take it. We're not gonna take it. Bit of Twisted Sister there.
You just become numb.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking shit now.
Don't, mate. Don't worry about it. It's getting to that time now. We've been on for a bit. We're like just struggling now.
No, but you know, like what I was saying before is that, you know, it's possible to fulfill your dream if you want to. You know, you just have to work harder than everybody else.
100%.
You know, it's and I'm not even a success. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but I am for myself. You know.
Yeah.
You know,
no,
it's.
I totally know what you mean. I totally know.
You know, I've never been hugely interested in money, so you know, I'm fine with not earning a lot of money.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean.
So
I don't give a shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like
money. Yeah, exactly.
No, but I don't need a fucking car. I don't. You know what I mean? Like I don't need material things to make me happy or proud of myself. You know.
That's awesome.
I mean, I've got lots of good close friends and nice people that surround me, and you know,
it's wicked.
There you go. Yeah. You can do that for yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna let you go, mate, because I know that we're past your time now. And
yeah, sorry, mate.
Thanks very much.
Wanging on there. Hopefully
no, not at all, mate.
Like
not at all. Not at all, mate. I think it's been awesome, man. I've really enjoyed every minute of it. And again, I can't thank you enough for doing it, mate. It really does mean a lot to me. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other soon anyway, man. Hopefully,
yeah, man.
To cruise sometime. We'll get you down the yard.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can't wait.
Awesome, mate. Well, you take care and have a good night. We'll speak soon.
Cool, man. Peace.
Take care.
Peace.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.